Let's freaking go. You never have college football stories quite as big as Lane Kiffin, but there is a bigger one that just broke, and it's not Frank Wilson, the thumbnail image. It is Sharon Moore, the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, was just fired. And it's not for him being a mid coach. They are firing him for cause. All we know is that there was an inappropriate relationship with a staff member per reports. An absolutely positively groundbreaking piece of news here. And obviously, this gets into, are you interested in getting some of the Michigan players to come over from the transfer portal, including a very interesting one who does have LSU ties, and that, of course, is Bryce Underwood. Is this the time for LSU to go get a quarterback of that stature, of that cost, to come back to BR? Are you so jilted by him that you say, look, let bygones be bygones? F that. He already screwed us over once. We're not taking him back this time around. So let's start with the Frank Wilson story, though, and we'll get into Sharon more because, I mean, come on, we're all college football fans here. Frank Wilson's name has been attached to the Texas running backs job opening where Chad Scott got fired. There was a great college football journalist who I was friends with named Chad Scott as well. And Texas, of course, is a huge school when it comes to recruiting New Orleans and when it comes to recruiting the state of Louisiana. In fact, Texas has beaten us out for quite a few Texas players. It's just the truth. Michigan has, and I say Michigan super chat. I meant to say Texas is in a situation where they want to dive even deeper into New Orleans. You see what they've done with Arch Manning. That's obviously a different recruitment. You can't really include that because Arch was never going to LSU. So then you get into, well, what about all these other players from Louisiana that Texas has poached, from Jamon Tapp, who's not done a whole lot, to James Simon, a running back who is a true freshman for them, to Williams, the safety from right up the road from Baton Rouge. And, well, it's just one of those things where you do worry about Louisiana recruiting and how many Louisiana recruits have actually gone to Austin over the past 5 years, or at least since Steve Sarkisian has been there. So you're always worried about poaching. You're always worried about losing a coach, the recruiting caliber and leader of Frank Wilson. So it's a tough situation to be in, obviously, if you are LSU. But, it's one of those things where a new coach comes in. Kevin Smith, the running backs coach at Ole Miss, has been with Lane Kiffin for a good while now. And this is a former NFL running back who is younger, of course. Do you bring him over and tell Frank, hey, we are done with your services? Obviously, it's a little bit different. You can, if you want to go on ahead and announce that Kevin Smith is the guy, well, you also don't want to do that because, well, you still got a bowl game coming up versus Houston here in about a month, and Frank still has a lot of work to do with that. So it's a weird situation to be in, but just know that Frank Wilson's name is indeed attached to the Texas opening. Now, before we get to any super chats or anything else, I kind of want to go live again a little bit later because I do think there's going to be some LSU news. And it's kind of already happened, the Charlie Weiss contract, where he has a clause in his contract now. And this is the next story I wanted to get to here. He has a clause in his contract where it's always going to make him the highest paid SEC offensive coordinator. All right. And we'll talk about all of that coming up. But I hate doing a rush stream. I am calling a college basketball game a little bit later this evening. And obviously, I have production meetings and all of that. It's not that big. I'm not meeting, I'm not calling a game on ESPN or anything like that. But, uh, I like to get to the arena early, talk to the players, coaches, and all of that. So um, we're only going to be live here for a few minutes. I say a few minutes, probably 10, 15 minutes here. But I did want to share, at least at some point, that there is a high likelihood, whoever you are right now, that Frank Wilson is not at LSU next year. Okay. So we go to the super chat here from Specialty Cave, Moscona is right and the Wolverines take Kalen DeBoer. Should we start shaking? Yeah, I don't know what Matt Moscona said. I know his show is on right now. We never go live at 4 p.m. Central, but the truth is, I wanted to go live at some point today. We're still teetering. It just depends how much energy I have left if we're going to do a 10 p.m. live stream. But I think some things are going to start shaking here. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a weird spot to be in if you're Alabama. All right, because in the first season under Kalen DeBoer, Alabama barely missed out on the playoff. They were the last team on the outside looking in. I don't agree with that. And then this year, they are in the college football playoff, which I do agree with, but they're not playing their best football. This is the second consecutive year where Alabama peaked way too soon. And normally, the sign of a good coach is how much better does your team get as the season moves along. And there are two consecutive seasons here with Kalen DeBoer where Alabama has tailed off, where they have become stagnant, stale, uninspiring, really, to watch them. And the truth is, I could see a world where Alabama and Kalen DeBoer just isn't really that fit, and DeBoer decides to go to Michigan or whatever job that is out there. The truth is, with these inappropriate relationship type of situations, if Sharon Moore had Michigan in the playoff and they were rolling, the likelihood that any of this sees the light of day is tiny. So while that may not be true, once again, it's kind of some speculation here, but historically, there is heavy precedent to where if a coach is really doing something nefarious, which in this case, Sharon Moore is being accused of doing this thing for a cause, there's going to be lawyers, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. It could go in line with Moore just not being that great of a coach, which he's not. Um, I don't think he's that great. He's gotten very lucky. That Northwestern game was a game that Michigan should have won by a lot. You have to win by a last-second field goal. This Bryce Underwood offense is just atrocious. It's uninspiring in many ways. I don't think Bryce Underwood is as mid as he was this year. Even as a true freshman, we knew that there were going to be growing pains. I just think they have a coach who's just way over his head. And if you have a chance to fire him for cause and really get out of a buyout, well, you take that opportunity if you are Michigan. So, look, it could be something so serious where Michigan really did want to keep him, and this was a very serious thing that he did. We just don't know the details yet. We just don't. But we do know that Michigan isn't just doing this for performance, or they might not be doing it for performance at all. It might be the opposite. It is important to point out Ward Manuel, some of you know him, he's from Louisiana. All right. So, very interesting decision. Okay. So, I don't know if DeBoer is going to jump for the Michigan job if he even gets offered. And would there be more pressure on him to win at Michigan than it would be at Alabama? I don't know. What I always say, though, is when someone gets fired at this juncture of the season, normally you have somebody that you have a good idea is going to take the job. Okay. So, once again, we'll see what all comes of this. We'll see all the details. I'm just laying every possible scenario out here. But goodness gracious, this is the single biggest story in college football. It was Lane Kiffin. And then it was Notre Dame in the college football playoff. And now it's this. A top 10 job in college football is open at a weird time. Now, I will also say this from the Michigan side of things, okay? Firing him now is so strategically smart. It really, really, really is. Because you already signed your class last week. So, yes, those guys can re-enter the transfer portal. Obviously, when you fire a coach, those players can enter the portal even after the signatures were already put in. But how many of them are actually going to do that? You already got your NIL deal inked. And I just don't know. I just don't know. But the timing of this is very, very fascinating by me. Okay. Now we go to Jeff. I know there's going to be a lot of Frank questions because he is the thumbnail image. Just my opinion, though. If Frank turns down the recruiting job and moves on, that's better than just showing him the door. All right, so what exactly has Frank been offered? There's murmurs out there that LSU wants to keep Frank Wilson around, but not necessarily as a running backs coach. Well, I don't know. I really do not know if they are trying to keep him on as an off-field assistant role. All right, but you go from being a head coach, where you've been a head coach in the past, to where you are being demoted lower than that of a running backs coach. Now, Frank loves LSU. Does he take that lower role? I don't know. But with his connections in the state of Louisiana, there's going to be teams out there that want his services. Okay. Now, this is what Special TK was getting into. Lane Kiffin is going to go to Alabama the minute they have an opening. Yeah, it's never really been that big of a secret that Lane Kiffin idolizes Nick Saban. All right. And he would love to follow in Nick's footsteps and coach at the place where he's already, as an offensive coordinator, won a national championship. Now, I know he didn't call that national championship game, but he won the national championship at Alabama. So now you're in a spot where, yeah, Lane could leave for leave LSU and go to Alabama. Could happen. And I will tell you, privately, I was told that was the nightmare scenario for LSU. It's not landing Lane Kiffin. It's him taking the job and then leaving before the first season even starts if Alabama were to open. The truth, though, is Kalen DeBoer leaving a playoff Alabama to go to a Michigan team in the Big Ten? Remember, Kalen DeBoer is a coach who, well, coached mostly in the West Coast. I just don't know if he's doing something like that, y'all. I really, really, really don't know. Okay. Let's see here. As far as Frank is concerned, Law V804 says we should really trust Lane to do whatever he wants with the staff, especially the offensive staff. Ole Miss was the top rushing team in the SEC under Lane, while we have sucked. So the question becomes, how good of a running backs coach is Kevin Smith actually? Well, apparently he's pretty good. Kwan Lacey wasn't some masterful, sought-after recruit. But then you can get into, are any running backs coaches true difference makers at actually coaching the running back position? Or are running back coaches more so recruiters, game managers, if you will, or roster managers, if you will, in terms of, this guy should get this carry or this guy should go in the game? I don't know. It's a good question to ask, though. For me, though, I would like Frank Wilson to stay on LSU staff. I do not want him going to Texas, though, where they have money, where Sark very well wants to build a castle in Louisiana with Texas recruiting. And honestly, Texas is taking us to the woodshed a few times on some of these recruits that we wanted. Okay. God, this is just so, I'm still so floored. I want to read, I want to make calls, all of it. When you have a story this big, it's insane. Now, to get into a weird spot as well, do you think Lane Kiffin leaves LSU for Michigan? I don't know. I don't know. All right, we got to take an early break because this is a shorter show. when we come right back. A few other details about the biggest story in CFB today.
Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LaBordTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LaBordTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region.
Insane, man. Insane. So I do want to talk more about the Moore situation because there is going to be a massive ripple effect. I would love Justice Haynes in an LSU uniform. I love quite a few of the Michigan guys in an LSU uniform. But LSU did make a coaching move today. Former special teams analyst Joe Houston is joining the staff. Okay. It was at Alabama in 2019 under Nick Saban. So, welcome to BR, Coach Houston. Now, the biggest roster change that happened today for LSU is Juwan Johnson did enter the transfer portal. So, is that a sign that Frank is indeed leaving? I don't think so. I think Juwan Johnson is in a spot where he's trying to figure out what's the next move for him as a player. Okay. There's multiple hurdles for Juwan Johnson to clear for wherever his next stop is going to be. All right. And by that, I mean, is he going to play quarterback? Is he going to be a running back? Is he going to be a slot wide receiver? At his next stop, is he going to play defense? I don't know. But Juwan Johnson this year for LSU was a good football player. He was a guy that played a massive role in us beating a very, at the time, what we expected to be a good Clemson team. And he just did his role well. Now, is he a great player? Probably not. Okay. He was a guy playing a position that was never intended to be his position, but ended up being his position because Trey Holly and JT Lindsay had their off the field situations. So I don't know where Juwan's going to go. I don't know what position he actually wants to play moving forward. But I do think for me, LSU is in a spot where they didn't have a single running back committed to the class of 2026. And I will say that is not been well received. To not have a young, true freshman running back with no wear and tear on the tires at all. Okay. Caleb Jackson won't be back. And then, of course, you have Harlem Berry and Caden Durham. Really good backs. But you have to bring in possibly 3 guys. All right, now really think about that. 3 transfer portal running backs. Is that even possible? So I've been very public about this, and I will stand by it. I have no idea why LSU did not bring in a running back in this class, in this high school class. And the reason I think it's more important at running back to bring someone in is it's more of a plug and play position. There's not as steep of a curve to me making the jump at running back in high school to playing running back in college, right? We don't need you to come in and play a gazillion snaps. Take the ball, hit the hole, get the job done, right? The other 2 will be in on the majority of pass protection and the actual real snaps. But running back, especially in the SEC, especially in a 9-game conference schedule next year, you really need an RB to come in and eat innings, right? This is more of a baseball thing. And I know we have a big baseball contingent here, and I will never be the Blake Ruffino or the Matthew Musso of daily baseball reporting for LSU. But this is more of a baseball term when it comes to relievers, okay? Relievers eat innings. You've always heard that, right? The guys that are between the starters and the closers. And sometimes, when most people say can eat up innings, it more so is, hey, we're winning 8-1. We don't want to put in one of our good relievers. We just need a reliever out there. We're down 17-9 in a high scoring affair. Well, is there someone on our staff that can go out there? They don't have to pitch shutout baseball, but can they get us 3 outs? And right now, we only have 2 running backs on the roster that can go out there and give us a 3-yard carry. So what does that mean moving forward? Well, LSU's got to get busy in the transfer portal, and running back becomes that much more important when it comes to your next roster at LSU. Okay. Gene Stalling is never remembered. David wants to know, does Bryce Underwood end up at LSU? Yeah, so this was the only thing that I got truly correct about the Bryce Underwood saga that always made me a bit uncomfortable about LSU's chance of landing him. All right. And why I do think there is a piece of me, because I interviewed Bryce, met his dad, texted with his dad a few times, and his family was moving to Baton Rouge. He made a lot of visits. Joe Sloan made a lot of visits up there. But the thing that always felt with me very uneasy about Bryce Underwood is in one of the first interviews he ever did, he said, and then they asked him, what is the single most important thing when it comes to picking a school? And he said immediate playing time. So understand that even if you don't think he's that great, which he might not be, it wasn't that great this year. The truth is, if you are going to get him, he's going to cost quite a bit, and he's going to need to start. If you're paying a guy that much, he's got to start anyway. So here he was at Michigan. That wasn't the best offensive line. Their tight end room took a big hit. He had a good run game, and that's it. Receivers were okay. How good is he? Well, what do we know about the SEC? The older quarterbacks are winning out in the Southeastern Conference, and they have been at an extremely high rate for quite a bit now. Diego Pavia is going to file for AARP next year. Then you had, obviously, a quarterback that we thought wasn't that great. Joey Aguilar was good this year. Gunnar Stockton was year 4. Ty Simpson was year 4. We can have our opinions about Garrett, but he was good last year 4. So Bryce Underwood is only entering year 2 of his development, and we want to win. So a step up in competition, all the extracurricular and buzz that would come along with him coming back to LSU. I think most LSU fans would receive it because obviously if this is what the direction of LSU if this is the direction that LSU wants to take, Bryce and Lane would need to be hand in hand in that. Yeah, let's keep the politics out of it. I saw a comment about Michigan as a bunch of. Let's not do that. It's kind of funny though because I do know a Michigan booster, not too well or whatever. He is definitely not what the commenter said. I will guarantee you he is not that. And yeah, I think most fan bases have fans across the political uh, spectrum. Let's go to Jared. He says, "I'd rather Trinidad or Sam Levitt out of Arizona State." Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that's what Lane wants to do. He wants to get Trinidad Chambliss. Okay, Kentucky would actually be a good fit. Okay. Now, I do also want to point out in the defense of Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore. I should know how to say his first name. In the defense of Coach Moore, I don't know what happened. I will say that there is a prominent media member that has already speculated about what exactly has happened. Um, I will tell you that sometimes it's not quite what you think. Okay, let's talk about another Michigan coach who was fired for cause, um, despite a ridiculous amount of NIL support and all of that, and that was Mel Tucker. All right, what specifically got him fired was something along those lines, but in the way that it happened is still one of the more ridiculous things I have ever heard. Like I was so blown away with how ridiculous that actually ended up being. So I just don't know. I just do not know. The timing of it is so interesting, right? And what a lot of people in the coaching industry would tell you is if you're winning, your skeletons are swept under the rug. Or that coach has dirt on you and they don't want whatever to get out to get out. But when people start to feel uneasy about you, they'll find something. Okay. No, it's going to be Mendoza. Well, yeah, sure, if you're firing him for cause, but what was the specifics of the relationship? Was it what was it? Texting? What was it? Mm. Insane, man. Insane. I got to go live again tonight. Y'all want to go live again tonight? Dude, oh my God. DeBoer. Would it be Kalen DeBoer? You tell me. You tell me. Would you take Kalen DeBoer if you're Michigan? I had so much LSU stuff that I wanted to talk about, but you just can't beat this sport. You simply can't beat it. All right, so I see what you guys. I think this is what Specialty K was referencing a minute ago from Moscona. I got a call Saturday that Moore was going to be fired for cause due to an inappropriate relationship. The person also mentioned Michigan would target Kalen DeBoer as Moore's replacement. Do you think Michigan's a better job than Alabama, though? I don't know. I would seriously lean Michigan in many ways. Obviously, Alabama is a better job, right? It's a better brand. It's one more, all those different things. But you have got to factor in a 9-game conference schedule. And Kirby Smart brought this up in the post-game press conference this weekend. So in the 9-game conference schedule, there is just a higher propensity for injuries. And Alabama is probably the most banged up team in the SEC. I mean, they were missing basically all their running backs, offensive linemen out. That wasn't really their team. And once again, that's no excuse for how stale, static, and boring and bad that they've been over the past month. And this is the same thing that happened to this team last year. But at the same time, they did get into the playoff. And you have to make the choice. Are you really going to leave Alabama for Michigan? Well, at Michigan, you play a 9-game conference schedule, but that's the Big Ten. I still think he would stay at Alabama. I do. Obviously, the money is a factor. The NIL is a factor. I do think Michigan State, with this new coach and $401 million being infused into the program's interesting. Now, Fred, please don't do the politics thing. Conservative, liberal, whatever. Just don't do that. I know you're trying to troll me here because I said that a minute ago, but I'm not taking sides in that. Defensive analyst Lance Guidry, per Wilson Alexander, is expected to be Oregon State's new defensive coordinator. But yeah, there's just no point in doing that. Kamala 80 says, I still don't think DeBoer is a good coach. He owes Penix a lot of money. DeBoer makes no adjustments, and his offense hinges on elite quarterback play. Yeah, I don't know. I say that. The Ryan Grubb offense, and it's the Grubb DeBoer offense, they've been together for so long. It is complex, right? It's not like Lane's, which is a lot more quarterback friendly. But once again, dude, the Alabama injuries this year has just been insane, dude. You see Archie? Actually, I don't know if that's a real thing. Yahoo's reporting it. It just doesn't seem like a real quote from Archie Manning. I think we're going to do great in the playoffs without our narcissistic jerk coach. Yeah, I hope you do great versus Tulane, where you're a 19-point favorite. Insane to me, dude. Insane to me. Now, here's what we're going to do. Next 5 minutes, I'll answer as many as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep this party moving. But you guys know I do have a hard out, so we won't keep it moving. I still... I still don't think... I still don't think Bryce Underwood would leave Michigan. I would also say, and the Master Blaster was right about what he said about Bryce Underwood this weekend. Let's go to DK Go Tigers. Why do New Orleans coaches seem to hold recruits hostage unless they have one of their guys on LSU staff? Seems like a mafia down there. So it's a connections business, right? You've been doing business with someone for so long, and one of your own is there, and that dynamic changes, and, you feel jilted. And, I think you're referencing Frank here, but you're not only losing Frank, you're going to lose, more than likely, Cortez Hankton. So there you have it. All right, y'all. Be tuned in a little bit later tonight at 10. I'm leaning towards doing it. I won't make any promises. We will be back live tomorrow at our normal time of 6 p.m. Central. Big thanks to our top super chatter. That is Special TK. And we'll talk to you soon. Big story in college football. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Tonight, we are doing some deep dish pizza. Let's go.